resonates with an intuitive approach that some developers might already find themselves leaning into, perhaps even without formalizing it. When we talk about vibe coding, I interpret it as a development methodology, or perhaps more accurately, an anti-methodology, where the primary driver for design decisions and implementation choices isn't a strict specification, a predefined architecture, or a set of established best practices, but rather an intuitive sense, a feeling, or vibe, about what feels right in the moment. Now, the pros of this approach, surprisingly, can be quite compelling in very specific contexts. First, there's speed of initial ideation and prototyping. If you have a highly skilled individual, a seasoned developer with years of experience, they might indeed be able to intuit elegant solutions very quickly, bypassing much of the formal planning. It allows for a rapid exploration of ideas, getting something tangible, something demonstrable, into existence with remarkable agility. It can also foster creativity and innovation as it's less constrained by rigid rules, potentially leading to novel solutions that might not emerge from a strictly prescribed process. For artistic endeavors in code, or highly experimental projects where the requirements are deliberately nebulous, that freedom can be invaluable. However, and this is where the serious practicalities of software development come into play, the cons of vibe coding are substantial and, frankly, often devastating in the long run. The most critical issue is maintainability and scalability. Code driven by intuition tends to be highly personalized, often lacking consistent structure, clear documentation, or any documentation at all, and adherence to established patterns. This makes it incredibly difficult for anyone else, or even the original developer a few months down the line, to understand, debug, or extend the system. It's akin to building a house without blueprints, where each room is added based on a spontaneous whim. It might be charming initially, but good luck adding another story or fixing a plumbing issue. This quickly leads to technical debt, accumulating design flaws that will inevitably require expensive and time-consuming refactoring. Furthermore, it severely hampers team collaboration. If your codebase's logic is primarily held within one person's vibe, it becomes almost impossible for a team to contribute effectively or for new members to onboard without a significant, painful translation process. You end up with a system that operates on a kind of magical thinking, which, while perhaps entertaining to describe, is a nightmare to manage in a professional, multi-person environment. So, while a good vibe is certainly welcome in a team, relying on it for your core architectural decisions is, shall we say, a risky proposition for anything beyond a weekend personal project.
You've painted a very accurate picture of vibe coding as an anti-methodology, and the analogy of building a house without blueprints is particularly apt. Truly captures the initial charm versus the long-term nightmare. What I often see is that the appeal of vibe coding is deeply rooted in a desire for immediate progress and a certain kind of creative flow. For a highly experienced developer, someone who has internalized countless design patterns and seen the consequences of both good and bad architectural decisions, there's a tempting shortcut. They might feel they can see the solution, bypass the documentation, the formal design, and just build. In their mind, they are simply moving fast, leveraging deep intuition that others might lack. It can feel incredibly efficient in the short term, almost like a superpower. However, as you rightly point out, this superpower rarely scales beyond the individual or beyond the initial burst of development. The crucial distinction lies between a senior developer's intuitive application of deeply ingrained best practices, which is a sign of mastery, and unaccountable vibe coding, where decisions are made without a clear, articulable rationale that can be shared, debated, and maintained by a team. The former is disciplined intuition, the latter is often just undisciplined guesswork masquerading as efficiency. The moment you introduce more than one person to a code base, or the moment that code needs to live for more than a few weeks, the consequences of vibe coding become painfully evident. It's akin to a band where the lead guitarist is brilliant but insists on improvising every single note of every song, every time. It might be astounding in a solo performance, but for a symphony orchestra trying to deliver a consistent, complex piece to an audience, it's simply chaotic. No one can follow, no one can predict, and the whole performance eventually grinds to a halt. So, while we certainly want to foster creativity and enable rapid prototyping, especially in early stages, we must ensure there are systematic checks and balances. Robust code reviews, automated testing, continuous integration, and a culture of collaborative design discussions are not bureaucratic overheads, they are essential guardrails. They ensure that even the most intuitively brilliant ideas are formalized, validated, and made intelligible and maintainable for the entire team. Without these, vibe coding quickly transforms from an intriguing concept into a very real, very expensive form of technical debt.
You've articulated a crucial distinction that often gets muddled in the everyday rush of software development, and the analogy of the improvising lead guitarist versus the symphony or particularly apt. It highlights precisely why that initial superpower feeling is so intoxicating, and yet so fundamentally unsustainable. That immediate gratification, that feeling of seeing the solution and just building, is indeed the siren song of vibe coding. It promises velocity, but often delivers only momentum, in the wrong direction, or at least in a direction only one person truly understands. For a highly skilled individual, it feels like an elegant bypass around what they perceive as bureaucratic overhead. They might think, I know this pattern, I've done this 100 times, why do I need to document it or formally design it for others who aren't at my level? This mindset often stems from a hero coder mentality, where one believes their personal brilliance can substitute for systemic rigor. And yes, in isolation, a brilliant individual can conjure something impressive. But software is rarely a solo performance designed to be admired from afar. It's a team sport, a shared intellectual construct that must evolve. The moment that single brilliant improviser needs to hand off the instrument to someone else, or collaborate on a complex piece, the music descends into cacophony. The solo virtuoso becomes a bottleneck, and their secret sauce becomes a toxic ingredient for the team. You hit the nail on the head. The distinction lies between disciplined intuition, which is a developer internalizing best practices to the point they become second nature, and unaccountable guesswork. Disciplined intuition allows for speed because the developer is applying known good patterns rapidly, almost subconsciously. Unaccountable vibe coding is often a shortcut around asterisk thinking about future consequences, about collaboration, or about maintainability. It's the difference between a master chef who instinctively knows how to balance flavors, and someone throwing ingredients into a pot hoping for the best because they're too rushed to read the recipe. One creates Michelin star dishes, the other creates, well, something. Those guardrails you mentioned, robust code reviews, automated testing, continuous integration, and collaborative design discussions, they aren't speed bumps on the road to innovation. They are the shock absorbers and the GPS that ensure you arrive at your destination with the entire vehicle intact and ready for the next journey. They codify that individual intuition, making it accessible, verifiable, and scalable. Without them, that initial superpower quickly morphs into what we politely call technical debt, a mortgage on your future productivity, with interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. And unlike a mortgage, this kind of debt doesn't buy you a house. It usually just buys you more headaches.
That was an absolutely spot-on dissection of a challenge that plagues far too many software development initiatives. The analogy of the improvising lead guitarist symphony orchestra perfectly encapsulates the fundamental tension between individual brilliance and collaborative, sustainable engineering. The allure of vibe coding is undeniable. For a skilled individual, it feels like pure, unadulterated productivity, a direct conduit from thought to functional code. It's akin to an artist in a burst of inspiration, creating something magnificent. The problem, as you articulated so clearly, is that software is rarely a standalone masterpiece intended for static admiration. It's a living system, a shared intellectual construct that must be understood, maintained, and evolved by a team, often over many years. The hero coder mentality, while often stemming from genuine competence and a desire to deliver quickly, ultimately becomes a strategic liability. Their personal, secret sauce becomes a bottleneck, not just when they depart, but every single day the team tries to integrate, debug, or simply comprehend the codebase. It's like building a complex house where only one person knows where all the pipes and wires are routed. When they're not around, the smallest repair becomes a full-blown archaeological dig. You hit the nail squarely when you distinguished between disciplined intuition and unaccountable guesswork. True expertise allows for rapid decision-making because it's built on a foundation of internalized best practices and pattern recognition. It's not about avoiding thought, it's about optimizing it. The master chef isn't just throwing ingredients. They're intuitively balancing flavors based on years of experience and a deep understanding of culinary science. The vibe coder, by contrast, might be throwing ingredients and hoping for the best, often because the recipe, or the required discipline, seems too cumbersome. And those guardrails you mentioned, code reviews, automated testing, continuous integration, collaborative design, they are not merely bureaucratic hurdles. They are the essential infrastructure that transforms individual contributions into a cohesive, robust, and scalable product. They are the flight plan, the air traffic control, and the maintenance checks that ensure the aircraft doesn't just take off, but actually reaches its destination safely and repeatedly. Without them, that initial superpower velocity is a fleeting illusion, often leading to a spectacular, albeit expensive, crash landing. The concept of technical debt truly nails the long-term consequence. It's not just a mortgage on future productivity, it's a high-interest loan on every feature, every bug fix, every new integration. And unlike a traditional mortgage, this debt often comes with no collateral, just an ever-increasing payment schedule of frustration, missed opportunities, and developer burnout. What felt like a shortcut yesterday becomes a concrete barrier tomorrow, trapping your product, your team, and ultimately, your organization. It's the silent